He was the loneliest little boy in town. At just 5 years old, he rented a big apartment all by himself. Every day, he cooked alone, cleaned alone, read the newspaper alone. He even went to kindergarten alone. On the day he first moved into that apartment, he prepared several boxes of tissues and went door to door delivering them to every neighbor. Shin, who lived next door, was curious and asked the boy where his parents were, but the boy didn't seem to want to talk about them. He simply said he had rented the room next door by himself. Back in his room, Shin kept wondering why the little boy talked and acted so much like an adult. Just then, his doorbell rang again. It turned out the boy wanted to take a bath, but the apartment building didn't have a bathtub. The boy asked him if there was anywhere nearby he could bathe. Shin handed him a flyer for a local bathhouse, telling him he could go there to wash up. The boy thanked him and headed out. Shin returned to his room and turned on the TV, only to see a news report about a child kidnapping case. Seeing that it was getting late, Shin felt uneasy, so he grabbed his toiletries and hurried to the bathhouse too. But he pretended he had just run into the boy by coincidence. While they were bathing, the boy got soap in his eyes. Shin stepped in to help wash his hair. The boy murmured to himself that it had been a long time since anyone helped him wash his hair. Shin didn't say anything, he just scrubbed a little more gently. On their way back home, the boy finally introduced himself. His name was Kotaro, and he was 5 years old. But when it came to his parents, Kotaro didn't seem willing to say much. Shin thought Kotaro was pitiful, so he told him that his own parents had passed away long ago, and he, too, lived alone. Shin asked if Kotaro ever felt lonely. Kotaro didn't answer, so Shin didn't push further. He knew that lonely people always had their own secrets. After that day, Shin took it upon himself to look after Kotaro. Wherever Kotaro went, Shin would quietly follow behind, but Kotaro didn't seem to like that very much. On their way home, they ran into their neighbor Mizuki. She gratefully thanked Kotaro for the tissues. Mizuki adored the cute little boy, but she mistakenly thought Shin was his father. Shin quickly explained that they were just neighbors. The next day, Kotaro and Shin went to take out the trash. Suddenly they found Mizuki lying on the ground, completely still. The two rushed over, only to realize she was just drunk. Her eyes were red and swollen, as if something had made her very sad. Kotaro suddenly turned and ran off, muttering that he needed to get something cold for her. But in his hurry, he tripped over a rock. He didn't cry at all. He just stood back up and kept running. Kotaro had gone to buy Mizuki a bottle of cold water, telling her to press it against her eyes. Cold compresses helped stop swelling after crying. Mizuki quickly denied it, insisting her eyes were red only because she drank too much. But Kotaro said, "Even if you cried, I wouldn't dislike you, because crying isn't wrong." Mizuki froze for a moment. She couldn't imagine what Kotaro must have experienced to say something so mature. After leaving Mizuki's place, Shin asked Kotaro how he knew that cold compresses helped puffy eyes. Kotaro calmly replied that he had seen adults cry before, and they used that method. The next day, Kotaro was cleaning the area outside his door. While trying to scrub away pigeon droppings, he slipped and fell hard. Both of his legs were bruised. It hurt a lot, but he still told himself it was okay. He opened his first aid kit, trying to treat the wounds himself. Afterward, he went to Shin's apartment again. He proudly showed off his toughness, saying he had fallen earlier, but didn't shed a single tear, and he could even disinfect the wounds despite the pain. Kotaro also told Shin that he used to fall down before, and back then he couldn't put on a bandage properly, but now he could. Kotaro asked him if that meant he had grown up and wouldn't make adults worry anymore. Shin didn't know how to respond. He simply grabbed his art markers and drew Kotaro's favorite cartoon character on his bandage. It was the first time Shin had ever seen Kotaro smile. He looked just like any other happy kid. Noticing that Shin was watching, Kotaro quickly pulled his smile back. He never wanted anyone to treat him like a child. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang. It was Tamaru from downstairs. He also liked Kotaro very much, but Kotaro didn't like him at all. Seeing Kotaro pushing him away, Tamaru took a plush toy out of his bag. It was Kotaro's favorite cartoon character. When Kotaro accepted the gift, Tamaru looked genuinely happy, but when Kotaro asked him why he was giving him the toy, Tamaru suddenly lowered his head. He told Kotaro that the toy was originally meant for his own son, but his son didn't like being around him, so he thought he would give it to Kotaro instead. Kotaro immediately returned the toy to him and said he wasn't a replacement for his son. To Kotaro, Tamaru's behavior felt like deception, and he hated being lied to more than anything. His words left Tamaru at a loss. He never expected that something so small could hurt Kotaro's heart. On the way home, Kotaro looked at the drawing Shin had made on his bandage, feeling a mix of emotions, so he asked Shin why he had drawn it. Did he have some hidden motive? Was it also part of a lie? But Shin explained that he had put a lot of thought into drawing it. That was why Kotaro smiled earlier. After hearing that, Kotaro said, "So that wasn't a lie," and ran back to his room. No one knew what his previous life had been like, but Shin's drawing was something he truly liked.
Slash! I'm super strong and kind, you can call me.
The next morning, Kotaro put on his hat and prepared to go out. Shin worried about him going alone, and offered to go with him, but Kotaro rejected him outright. This led to their first argument. Frustrated, Shin went back to his room. Kotaro left on his own. Soon, he arrived at his kindergarten. Other kids had their mothers bringing them in. The teacher was surprised to see Kotaro arrive by himself, but Kotaro insisted that a simple opening ceremony was something he could handle alone. Every kid had a parent help attach their name tag. Kotaro, stubborn as ever, kept failing to put his on properly, but he pretended not to care. Meanwhile, Tamaru came looking for Kotaro to apologize for what happened earlier, but Kotaro wasn't at the apartment. When Tamaru learned Shin had let Kotaro go out alone, he became furious, so the neighbors began guessing where Kotaro might have gone. When Shin saw other children wearing hats like Kotaro's, it finally clicked that Kotaro had gone to the kindergarten nearby. They rushed out to find him at the kindergarten. Because it was the opening ceremony, all the other kids had their parents beside them. Only Kotaro sat there alone. He felt envious, but kept telling himself to stay strong. Just then, Shin came running in, panting heavily. He told Kotaro that he didn't need to act tough. After all, he was still just a kid. Tamaru also hurried over to apologize, saying he shouldn't have given Kotaro a gift meant for his son. Mizuki showed up too, holding a present for him, and in that moment, Kotaro felt an overwhelming happiness, because he also had parents by his side. Kotaro then admitted he could never put on his name tag correctly. He asked if they could help him fix it. It was the first time Kotaro had ever asked anyone for help. Just like Shin said, he was still a child, there was no need to pretend otherwise. Shin helped him put the name tag on properly, and Kotaro's face lit up with pure happiness. That evening, back home, Shin purposely set his futon near the wall by the closet, because he knew that hearing Shin snoring next door would help Kotaro sleep peacefully. After that day, everyone in the apartment building started looking after Kotaro on their own. He finally wasn't alone anymore, but sometimes, he still thought of his mother, and the carefree version of himself, when she was still around. Kotaro lived well under the care of his neighbors, but the source of his money was always a mystery. Until one day, Mizuki and Shin took Kotaro to the park. They took a lot of photos, but after an entire day of fun, they noticed that Kotaro always covered his face in the pictures. They found it strange, and asked him why he did that. Kotaro didn't answer. Instead, he fell into a memory. His father had a severe anger disorder. When it flared up, he couldn't control his emotions. Back when Kotaro was in the orphanage, his photo was posted online. His father found the orphanage because of that picture, and caused a huge scene trying to take Kotaro away. Ever since then, Kotaro refused to be photographed, because he didn't want his father to find him again. Every week, Kotaro received living expenses, delivered by a lawyer from a law firm. Attorney Ayano always told him the money came from kind donors. Every time he received the money, Kotaro would perform a show as thanks to the kind donors, but he didn't know the truth. The money actually came from his deceased mother's insurance payout. His mother had already passed away. The lawyers had been hiding this from him all along, but Kotaro never doubted them. He firmly believed his mother would come looking for him someday, and the reason he left the orphanage and chose to live alone was to make himself stronger. Strong enough not to fear his father's fists and insults. Strong enough to protect his mother from being abused. He believed that once he became strong, he could return to his father's side, because he knew his father wasn't truly a bad person. When his father wasn't having an episode, he actually cared for Kotaro. Whenever it rained, his father's shoulders were always soaked, because the umbrella was tilted to cover Kotaro completely. So whenever it rained, Kotaro would stand by the subway entrance with an umbrella, shielding people from the rain, because his father had once told him, when you hold an umbrella, make sure the person under it stays dry. If your shoulder gets wet, it means they won't. Shin worked as a manga artist. His job wasn't that busy, so he had plenty of time to spend with Kotaro. The more time they spent together, the more he cared about this little boy. One day, the two of them went to the supermarket to buy daily necessities, but Kotaro always insisted on buying expensive tissues. He seemed very particular about the ingredients used to make them. Shin didn't understand why. On their way home, Kotaro explained to him that those tissues were high quality. They contained glycerin and sorbitol, because those kinds of tissues had a sweet taste. Later that evening, Shin happened to see an interview with a celebrity on TV. The man on the screen said that when he was young, his parents were always busy and never home, so whenever he was hungry, he would eat tissues to fill his stomach, and high-quality tissues always tasted sweet. A sudden pain hit Shin's heart. He finally understood what Kotaro meant when he said tissues had a sweet flavor. He couldn't imagine what kind of heartbreaking experiences 5-year-old Kotaro had gone through. Shin made up his mind that as long as Kotaro was with him, he would never have to eat tissues again, so the next time they went to the supermarket together, Shin told Kotaro to buy the cheapest tissues, because Kotaro would never go hungry again, and he would never need tissues for food anymore. Only then did Kotaro realize that without even noticing, he had gained the care of his neighbors, and he had already learned how to cook for himself. He had simply been trapped by painful memories, turning the habit of buying expensive tissues into a routine. When the neighbors learned about Kotaro's past, they all came to his place that evening. They ate dinner together. The table was livelier and warmer than ever before. Kotaro no longer needed tissues to survive. From that day on, Shin became like a father to Kotaro. On the memorial day of Kotaro's grandparents, Kotaro asked Shin to accompany him to visit their graves. At his grandmother's grave, Kotaro began carefully wiping the tombstone, but Shin suddenly noticed that there were 3 names engraved on it, so he asked Kotaro what his mother's name was. Kotaro said her maiden name was Sayori. Shin froze. At that moment, he realized that Kotaro's mother had already passed away, but Kotaro had no idea, because he didn't know how to read the characters on the tombstone. He always believed that if he became strong enough, he could protect his father and protect his mother, and the 3 of them could live happily together again. Just then, a mother walked by with her child. Kotaro looked at them and asked Shin if he could still see his mom someday. He was already starting to forget what his mother looked like. Shin thought for a long moment. In the end, he couldn't bring himself to tell Kotaro the truth. He said that Kotaro's mother would come back one day. Kotaro trusted Shin completely, because Shin had never lied to him. But deep down, Kotaro might have already sensed that his mother was gone. He just didn't want to accept it. After that day, Kotaro became more hardworking than ever. He performed little shows in front of the apartment building to earn money. After school, he would collect recyclables to sell. The lawyers found it strange and asked Kotaro why he was doing all this. He told them that he wanted to earn lots and lots of money. Then he would build a big house, a house where all his neighbors could live, where his dad and mom could live too. Yes, at some point, Kotaro was no longer living alone. He had Mizuki, the big sister, he had Tamaru, the uncle, and he had Shin, who was like a father to him. Maybe none of them could stay with Kotaro for the rest of his life, but for now, they were happy. And the story ends here. Kotaro's journey was filled with pain and tears, but every light in that apartment building, every bit of concern, came together to form a real home for him. A home defined not by blood, but by the warmth of people who care. A home built from the bonds that light each other through the years, where every lonely soul can finally find belonging and tenderness. Growing up is never a battle fought alone. We learn to rely on others and to take responsibility. We learn to receive love and to give it in return. With kindness, we warm others. With responsibility, we protect one another. And may every lonely heart be healed by gentle love.